All right, call the meeting forward, 6 o'clock. I invite you to join me in the allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, there have been some late additions. Those are detailed on your agenda. And I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Actually, we should probably do roll call. We have Christie online. I guess Paul's out. Is there Paul up there? I don't see Paul. You hear anything from Paul, Leon?
He was going to try to make it if he could remotely, but I don't see him on the attendee list.
Okay. All right, public comments. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the city council or on the agenda or otherwise. Is there anybody that would like to address city council? Go ahead. Make sure to introduce yourself and where you're from.
Chuck Oldfield, Stevenson, specifically Hidden Ridge. I'd like to discuss the issues, one of the issues before you this evening about zoning changes for SR, residential zones. And the current setback requirements is outlined in the city table 17.15.06-1 residential dimensional standards currently in place for the city of Stevenson SR zoning district provide for the following. A front setback of 30 feet, side interior of 15, side street 20 feet, rear interior lot 20, rear through lot 20 feet. There's no caveats on the table, no stipulations for any other provisions to change. My comment is that all lots currently in the Hidden Ridge development, which fall in the city's SR zoning district, range in size from 0.34 to 5.59 acres. These are substantial lot sizes for residential development, and the intent of adopting the city's dimensional standards currently in place for that development was to ensure a quality standard that would negate development and intrusion both physically and visually of buildings that would take away from the aesthetic quality and appearance of our neighborhood. We have all known or should have known the dimensional provisions and restrictions of our respective lots and have planned our own personal construction accordingly. My wife and I spent a great deal of time and money making these provisions in order to comply with the city's requirements. We have met all setback requirements, both in terms of the construction of our home and the shed that we placed on our property. Rather than placing a substandard work shed in full view of our neighbors, we planned and spent enough money to make sure that it was constructed of appropriate materials and finishes to be consistent with the development CCNRs. And there are provisions in our CCNRs for the types of materials, roofing, siding, and so forth that we complied with to the letter. We met all these requirements and stipulations willingly with the understanding that by doing so, we would preserve the nature and ensure the ambiance of our neighborhood for years to come. I'm sorry that some of our neighbors did not take these matters into consideration in planning their living spaces, but to change these stipulations now only rewards initial disregard and eliminates the enjoyment of a quality of life for existing properties that chose to comply with these requirements. The existing setback requirements for SR zone are not onerous, and they do not impede the utility of one's property. It simply means that people who choose to place a shed in their backyard need to choose a location closer to their home structure rather than imposing it on their neighbor. Simply putting it in the back corner of a lot may be more aesthetically pleasing to that particular homeowner, but doesn't necessarily to the neighbor who otherwise has little or no choice in its placement. Just a kind of a side story. My father had a neighbor who liked to park his work truck in front of his house. instead in front of his own. And when my father asked him why he did so, he replied, "The truck doesn't look very good parked in front of my house." To which my father replied, "It doesn't look any better parked in front of mine." If this zoning change takes place in conjunction with other city provisions, any homeowner can place as many as 4 outbuilding structures all in a row within 5 feet of an existing property line. I would like to suggest that existing setback regulations stay in place for the city council and planning to make a provision for homeowners to get an exemption or waiver with the signed consent of any affected neighbor. Making this change with no regard to the initial intent of the zoning, nor any regard for those who have adhered to it and its requirements, would only codify the indifference others will have going forward in the development of our residential communities. As an aside, I would remind our city council that well-maintained and thoughtfully planned neighborhoods make our city a desirable place to live, maintain property values, and thereby ensure future city revenues. It's my belief that our city is kind of at a nexus point in terms of our growth, and then we need to start asking ourselves the question as to what kind of city we want to live in as it develops and changes going forward. Thank you very much for your time. Oh, by the way, I should add, I had similar conversation at our planning meeting on Tuesday. And at that time, I did make a misstatement. There is no provision in our CCNRs that allows for any other setbacks other than the front setback to the house. So if this zoning change goes into effect, all those guardrails disappear.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience?
My name is Robert Kazee. I live on 171 Northwest Falcon Court, and I'm one of the 11 residents that applied for the zoning change. Reason being, we have a 23,000 square foot lot, of which most of it is on an incline. Placing a shed behind the house was not physically, we weren't physically able to do that. So we have placed it alongside within as close to the house as we could, built it of a construction material similar to the house, architecture style similar to the house. And it does not take away from the neighborhood. I've yet to see anyone with a shed that does that. So I agree with the findings that y'all had on the last planning meeting, and I would like to see the ordinance passed through.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Katie Simpson, I live in Hidden Ridge, and I'm one of the 11 applicants also. So there's 11 of us that have lots that are problematic. It's difficult, as he said, to find a place with the current setbacks that makes sense. There's very limited amount of space. There's some lots that have more space, but some are pie shaped, some are, and after you put your footprint, there's not much left. And our neighborhood, it really resembles more of a residential than suburban residential. So I think it makes sense to allow the same setbacks that are in place for the other residential zoning areas.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Scott, there's a person that is calling in that would like to comment.
So that I can see that. All right. Who do we have?
Hi. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. Mary Rapar Stevenson. I'm going to comment on housing, specifically affordable housing. I know you all have heard this from me before, and I'm going to keep beating this drum until we succeed in this endeavor to build more affordable housing here in our areas. I took a drive through Chinnadeer the other day, and what a mess. You know, if that meets what we consider in the comprehensive plan a small town flavor, then most of us are either blind or delusional. That place shows nothing close to small town flavor. It's more like Portland flavor. And that whole area is going to be a ritzy place. People will enjoy living there, et cetera, except when the transportation issue or traffic issue comes up. But that kind of a subdivision, if I recall correctly, with over 80 homes on it, if you want affordable housing, what should have been included is at least 0.25% of those lots being affordable, and affordable housing being built on those lots. If you want diversified housing that has a complex, diverse, what can I say, population in it. I don't know what to say when I see that place. But the other thing is, if we want more affordable housing, we have to change the policies that adhere to housing. We have to stop second homes. We have to stop B&Bs buying homes so they can do B&Bs. And we also have to figure out how we are going to build affordable housing here in our community that is affordable. We're never going to meet the affordable housing crunch unless you change policies. So I would recommend the city council to start looking at perhaps, and this is an idea, buying a place like the Manor Apartments and rehabbing those without causing anyone to be unhoused, and making it better and in our downtown area and more affordable. That's the only way we're going to meet affordable housing numbers here in our community. If you don't want your workforce to leave the area, then you've got to start providing homes that they can buy and stay in and invest in their community. I will not stop talking about this because I think we need to stop talking about it and start doing something in our community. We might make mistakes, but that's okay. You learn by your mistakes. So thank you very much. And I think it is time that the city council needs to really address this issue of affordable housing and what it actually means in our community and how we're going to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. That actually is an identified priority. It's something that we talk about on a fairly regular basis. Affordable rental apartments and attainable homes. And it is something that we do, like I said, we do talk about on a fairly regular basis. So it's something that's important to me, and City Council has agreed that that is a priority for us. So thank you for your comments, and we'll continue to make some changes as we can. Okay. Can one of you make me a presenter or a view so I can see the participants? All right, good, thanks. All right, Ben, looks like you're up on S&P.
Okay, starting on page 23 of your packet, you have a letter from the state congratulating us.
Hang on, where's my cheat sheet? I probably should, I need to open public hearing at 6:15. Back up, please.
Okay, starting on page 23 of your packet, you have a letter from the state congratulating us. The long-awaited conditional approval of our shoreline management program has been issued. So the state took a look at what we sent to them in December of 2018. They did their analysis, and that's what attachment A to the letter is. Following that analysis, they have attachments B and C. Attachment B is a list of required changes that we need to make in order to comply with the state regulations as they see them. Attachment C is a list of recommended changes. Those are, the state thinks that our program would be better in some way if we did that. And so there are 25 in the first category and 33 in the second category. to get to this point, you all had a shoreline advisory committee that ran through the planning commission, and they processed through a lot of documents, a lot of pages to get you all a recommendation. And so the proposal this time is to send these recommendations back to that advisory committee. They'll review the list of 33 and say, yeah, we should include that, we should include that, we shouldn't include that, let's include this or not. They are scheduled to have a special meeting for that. We haven't set a time for that special meeting, but they'll be having that at some point between now and your March meeting, most likely between now and their March meeting. So sometime in the next couple of weeks, review that specifically, dive into the weeds, those details.
They'll be reviewing those items.
Yeah, those 33, they'll focus on those. And then they'll give you a list of changes that they agreed to make. We are running this as a public hearing now to see if the public has any comments on these changes. Generally, that's where we're at, is that you've all, or the Stevenson City Council has said, we're going to adopt this if Ecology approves this. Ecology said, yeah, we're going to approve all this other stuff, but not this. And so really, we're trying to focus comments just on this. If we open up the rest of it, we have to go through the whole process again. So we will have that for you, the public hearing tonight, in order to gather input. The public written comment period is open. It opened on February 9th. It's open through March 14th. That's the day of the Planning Commission's regular meeting in March, and precedes your city council meeting in March. Ideally, we'll have a recommendation of approval for you at your March meeting and ready to act on adopting this and being done with something that's been a bear.
Been a long time coming. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
I know you put a lot of time into it.
So we're accepting public comment on this now. What have we done to elicit that public comment? So people know that they have this opportunity.
Yeah, it's on we ran it in the paper. Where there's specific requirements we need to meet from the state in order to do that. And so that's a general public notice in the paper. It's not direct mailing to anybody, and we haven't mailed notice to anybody at this time. We did in the 2018 segment, but we've got the advisory committee made up of broader public. We've got the planning commission as a public body as part of that advisory committee too. So
Have we put it on our Facebook page or website?
I don't know if it's on the Facebook page. It is on the website.
Facebook just seems to be the communication of choice for a lot of folks.
Yeah, I'll take a look and you
Yeah.
can get it. You get the notice.
So what'd you say the next step was, Ben?
Public input.
Good. Great. Okay, so is that for the staff report? All right, so I would like to solicit some comments from the public, those of you that are in the audience and anyone that's online. Make sure I can see.
I skipped over a key part. The Shoreline Master Program is a specific requirement of the state, and it's a specific area of town. And so it's anything that's within 200 feet of Rock Creek, Rock Cove, the Columbia River, or Ash Lake if we ever annex adjacent to Ash Lake. So small area of town, doesn't cover many properties.
Any comment from the audience? Is that Bernard from the committee?
I believe so.
And so, Bernard, did you have any comments? If somebody let me in. Go ahead.
Bernard, you should be allowed to talk right now.
If you're talking, we can't hear you. Go ahead. Well,
Bernard, the permission is available on our end. You may need to call in if you're not able to talk through your device.
okay, we'll call that technical difficulties. Bernard, if you can chime in, or maybe we'll get you in on the next public comment period. All right, we'll close the public comment portion of the hearing at 6:20. Any additional council or staff discussion?
Ben, this also includes the recreational use, like trails, that kind of stuff.
What this does is it establishes goals for recreational use, public access.
Right.
And when projects are proposed, we'll review those projects against those goals and against the specific regulations to make sure that it's not detracting from that possibility.
Correct.
It's related to the grant we have that we'll start doing comprehensive public access and trails plan. And with that, we'll change a little bit from the approach that we have with this, which is just regulatory. We sit here and we react to projects when they come in the door. And then we have to justify adding a trail based on the impact of the project. With the comprehensive public access and trails plan, we'll turn that into a more proactive effort to say, this is what we want to do. And then we'll ask the city council to budget for that and then spend money to do that in a proactive fashion. But at this point, it's the reactive regulatory way.
Yeah, so we're planning rather than reacting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, Liana?
Are we in sewer updates now?
Yep.
Okay, so let's see. The best news is we've hired someone, actually a couple people. So we hired Devin Groom as our new wastewater treatment plant operator. He actually comes with us with a wastewater treatment plant level 1 certification already. And so that will cut the time before he can get his level 2. He's working with the state to get an operator, an OIT or an operator in training for level 2, which is apparently a new certification. And he's already taking ownership of the plant and moving forward with getting us what we need. And he's on board with ensuring that we can do all the testing in our own lab, which would be great. And it would save us costs in the long run and time as well, because we have to take staff has to run samples into Vancouver a couple times a week to meet the requirements. Another part is the main D extension. We are currently reviewing the bids that came in yesterday. And with that, the apparent low bidder at this time is Crestline for a bid of just over $261,000, which is just $10,000 over the engineer's estimate, which is amazing in this environment. So that's great news. And then on Wednesday, the wastewater treatment plant went out to bid, and we'll have a pre-bid meeting to demonstrate sort of the soil conditions as well as the dewatering situation in mid-March. And then the bids for that project will be due on March 30th. And that will lead to an anticipated construction start date of June. We also hired a new public works director, Carolyn Sorick. She's a professional engineer, and she will start on March 14th. And so she'll be on board when that project gets up and running as well, and right before those bids come in. And I think that, and then Instapipe is wrapping up the slip lining and repairs on School Street. So I believe that about does it for the wastewater treatment plant. In your packet, I've updated the Gantt chart with the current projects that are in construction, and I kind of color coded them to see sort of, we still have parts of the project that are in design phase, and then the remaining parts that are gonna go hot and heavy in construction are coming up soon as well. So that's exciting. And I believe the current lift station for Rock Creek, that will be going, construction will be beginning in April, and we'll be working on getting some communications out as well on that.
Thank you. All right, so next up is unfinished business. You have some more info on the proposed text MyGov solution that we were looking at last month.
Yes, I do. So the questions were regarding records retention and searchability, as well as as well as asking about the HyperReach, the county project. And so with regards to searchability, you can do a keyword search on all of the communications that are sent and received through that. And there's also the ability, they save all of the information. They do not do any deletion of the information. We have the ability to do downloads ourselves as well. And it's backed up on the site twice a day, as well as with AWS. We own all of the information, and they keep it as long as we're a customer. Again, they only delete it if requested. We can search by phone numbers, keywords, date range, and we can also schedule notifications as well. And most of the way that it will work from the city standpoint is we can schedule notifications to go out to a specific group of people if they sign up for a list. And the text that we receive, though, will be mostly around people reporting an issue, or if they want to, there's more or less canned responses. So if someone texts city council to this phone number, they'll come back. The response will be an automatic response. You know, council packets and meeting information can be found online here, or council meets the third Thursday of every month at 6, with just, again, stock responses. Anything further than that would be a phone call. So we're not talking about having ongoing conversations with the public through this. This is more just an initial outreach with more further conversations to be had through other means. When I talked, so as far as the HyperReach, which is what the county uses, and talking with Dave Waymeyer, he mentioned that it really only works on known landlines or for registered cell phones. But they've been using it for other circumstances, and they say, you know, every time an emergency happens, they'll get more responses or more people signing up. And so that's how it works on their end. But he's one of the things that we were talking about was, if this is approved, when we advertise this as a service, we would advertise, kind of to Rob's point of making sure that people understand this is not for emergencies. This is only for water, sewer, city type of items. If you want to sign up, we would advertise for both, for the emergency services communication through the sheriff's department, and then through the city, if you want notifications of matters, you can sign up here.
Ken, how does the retention, is that okay?
Well, it sounds like to me that Liana has indicated that they'll retain it as long as we indefinitely, unless we ask them to delete them, which we may want to be able to check what the required retention is for that
Retention
type
schedule.
of information, and actually have them delete them when that retention period ends. Because otherwise it just makes searching much more onerous.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it sounds like, Liana, that's doable, isn't that?
Yes,
Their
it is.
description?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
I'm satisfied.
So we would look at basically the state of Washington retention
Right.
schedule
Right.
Okay.
But it sounds like it's up to us
to
to
determine.
to make that happen, but that's fine. I like that we're in control of that.
Liana, we're still at the $1,200 setup fee and then $3,000 annual.
Correct.
Okay.
Like to make
And
a
what's-
motion to approve Are we ready for that?
I just have one question. There was some discussion about what kind of actual response they got with the emergency services. Like what was it a majority of the people that were reaching out? Was there 50 people that are on their list? We were just kind of trying to see, because this is not a tiny amount of money. We were just trying to see if it's something that sounds like it is actually being successful here. So I don't know if that was one of the questions that was posed when I believe Rob was the one on the call.
And when I talked to the sheriff's office about that, he was not able to give me like a percentage or anything, and the numbers would be skewed because the information that we would be providing would be of a different nature than what the sheriff's department is providing. And so he said more and more people sign up as emergencies arise, but it's a different type of use.
Okay.
So why are we considering this? How did this come up? I missed last month. So can you provide some background on this as to why it's even brought to us for discussion?
So
It's just another mode of communication.
Yeah, but who initiated it to bring to the council?
It was in-house.
In-house? Okay, got it.
This is something that I saw, I forget what event I was at, but someone was talking about this another great way of providing information for residents. So for example, it's geo-specific. So if there's going to be water main work, or if there's going to be a road torn up, you would do a blast to that area specifically,
Right.
as opposed to everyone going, okay,
Yeah.
sure. But also if someone sees, that there's a tree has stripped the sidewalk, or if there's something that they want to find a way that would like to message to the city, it's two-way communication. But like Liana said, it's not going to be, they can send us a message, but it's not going to be,
It's not an actual chat. It's not a chat room.
Yeah.
Right. So it is another way to engage and keep our residents informed.
Right, and so I guess marketing would just be really, really important to make sure that everyone is aware that it's available to them.
None of like
And
on
to
the
make
water
use of it.
bills and the newsletters.
Okay,
On Facebook.
got it. Okay.
Yeah, no, we were talking about this, and this was the package that Liana found that
Okay.
looked like it was. What we
Yeah,
wanted.
thanks. I just wanted that backstory.
Sure. So to come up with
Ready
the
for a
last.
motion?
Yes, do it.
Kristy's so excited. I want to make a
I'd
motion.
like to make a motion to approve the proposal from TextMyGov for communication service as presented for initial fee of $1,200 and annual cost of $3,000.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Christie?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, all right, Liana, next up is the revised purchasing policy. Can you provide a bit of a narrative on this before we keep going on it?
Yeah, so in our audit last year, there were some things that were identified, such as our federal policy regarding procuring contracts for the federal government, as well as for complying with those laws. They weren't updated in our policy, and the state and federal government have updated their thresholds. And so the policy needed to be updated to begin with since 2009. And I looked at another city's presentation, and as you can see from the comparison that I sent out earlier to council regarding the changes in the personnel policy, that this one makes it a little bit more clear as far as what the limits are and what the processes are.
Just click on that.
It's time for public comment.
Yeah, right.
Well done, Liana.
Yes. Grace under fire.
That's right.
Mhm. I love
Didn't
that
skip a
show.
beat.
No.
So You can either make a motion or continue to talk about it, okay?
I actually went into this quite a bit. I don't know why. I guess I was bored. But I think all of the changes make sense. It provides more flexibility for the city staff.
Mhm.
So well, I'll move to approve of resolution 2022-3893, revising the purchasing policy, repealing resolution 227. It's in entirety.
Second,
Ooh,
second, third.
under the wire.
All right, we do have a first and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. All right, Liana, do you have noise canceling headphones or? Because you're up.
I know, yeah, this is the best I got, sorry. So so the contract with WSP, this is for the First Street Overlook project. And the initial contract, everything was, expected to be done last year with the construction and the project being wrapped up. So again, we ran into an issue with right-of-way, and that's causing us to have to extend this contract. Where we're at, so there's still funds on the contract available for them to utilize for the project. So there are no increases in funds. We are working with WashDOT on revising the design, and we'll have revised costs with that. And that will allow us to move forward with the project without the right-of-way turnback agreement, which caused the challenge in the first place. It will also, we'll also have to put, with that revised cost, we'll put it on the local state transportation program, through our local transportation council. And that will then allow us to reapply for construction funds, which we have lost through the project because we weren't able to complete it in the time allotted. We do have 10 years from the initial, we do have 10 years to change the phase, but we still have to reapply for those funds because they were reallocated to other projects. So that's sort of where we're at. This extension, again, allows us to do that redesign. We did get a geotech report on some of the conditions of the roads, which we were concerned about. And when the new public works director gets on board, we'll bring them up to speed and we'll work on that project and that turnback agreement with them. And again, both projects will be moving forward, and we should be able to separate the turnback agreement from the overlay project.
So do we have the geotech report done? Has it been concluded? Or are we still waiting for
the state gave me the final geotech analysis on the retaining wall and the settlement that we had, and that we had a question about. I think that was given to me late last week.
Okay, so do you see any obvious concerns at this point, or do you not feel comfortable making that call right now without?
I don't feel comfortable making that call right now. So Carolyn has more expertise in this, and so I will have her look at it and see what.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I make a motion to approve the contract extension with WSP as presented.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, Leona, system phase 1 project change orders.
So as I mentioned earlier, the wastewater collection system phase 1, which is Rock Creek and the force main, that will begin in April. And there are a couple of change orders that are going through. The first change order is changing that date from last fall to April. Again, that was for dewatering and to save costs, as well as to ensure that we're able to do the project not in the wet season, because they're having to be digging fairly deep right next to Rock Creek. The other, and they were also unable to collect, they're all unable to get supplies due to the ongoing COVID challenges. So change order, that's change order 1 is moving the date. And then change order 2 is moving the lift station slightly so that the county public works can actually get behind the building, and also revising the access hatch frames and modifying the bridge crossing. And that results in actual overall reduction of the costs for the contract of about $7,600.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2021 wastewater collection system improvement project change orders 1 and 2 in the combined amount of $7,621.93. Reduction for a revised total contract amount of $1,932,275.86.
Second. All right, first and a second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. All right, Liana, covenant of purpose, use and ownership.
Same project. So it's the project that we're going for, the Rock Creek and the Force Main. That is funded through the Economic Development Association. One of their requirements in order for us to get reimbursed is to have a covenant of purpose, use and ownership, so that we don't take all of their money and then turn around and sell the property and make a profit on it. So this basically gives us a 20-year restriction on doing anything with the property without either refunding them or without their approval.
What happens after the 20 years, Liana?
Sell it whoever we
We're
want.
flipping it, man. We're
Right? Getting rid of sewer, right?
Just thought I'd ask.
Well, it's kind of
Yeah.
along, it's kind of goes along the same lines of when the auditors asked, well, what about decommissioning your wastewater treatment plant? I'm like, what if that ever happens? There are so many other things that, I mean, society would have changed greatly if we can get rid of our wastewater treatment plant. So, yeah.
Not that I'm gonna be 20 years, but. Anyway. Annie, you wanna do it?
Yes, I'm still thinking, but I don't need to do that.
That's overrated.
I got a headache. Okay, so to approve, I make a motion to approve the 20-year covenant of purpose, use and ownership with the Economic Development Administration for the 2021 wastewater collection system improvement project.
I second.
First and a second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. You're on a roll, Liana. Phase 1 major equipment procurement revised contracts.
Okay, so I thought we were done with these at the January meeting. So there's one contract we'll actually have to award and then approve the contract for as well, because one of the bidders was determined to be unresponsive due to the time frame. They were not able to get their parts in until almost a year, and that's a part that we need, again, within the time frame that's within the contract. And we weren't able to negotiate on moving that anyway. So that is the second item. That's the grip removal equipment for Lakeside. That will need to be awarded, as well as the contract language changed, which is the same contract language that we approved for the other piece of equipment with Lakeside. The other one is with Absco Trillium for the pumps, and that is just an updated delivery date and additional contract language, which is on page 10 of the agreement, which is included in the packet. And then for Aquarius, which is the last section, the last bullet point under that motion, I did finally get a hold of them today. We talked, and they sent in an email as far as the proposed changes go. One of the language points, they wanted to make sure that the schedule shall be as mutually agreed upon by buyer and seller. And so there's no changes necessary to the current schedule, but there is language in the contract that says no changes shall be made. I believe they don't have the actual redlined, but that's the intent of what they want as far as if there are scheduled changes, it shall be mutually agreed upon between buyer and seller. Another change was that there's Article 5 in the contract that assigns the procurement contract to the contractor if we so desire. And then what that would do is it would require us to pay the contractor, and then the contractor then has to pay Aquarius. And they have a concern with that. And so they just stated their change would be that the payment to the seller shall not be contingent upon payment by others. And then the last one is that they don't see the need to provide performance and payment bonds for this, and they will not be providing them. And it's for equipment. I don't know the legalities as far as why they're required for this, but yeah, yes, typically performance and payment bonds aren't required when you purchase equipment, but I don't know, and I haven't had a chance to run this by the engineer, nor Ken.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask Ken, have you had a chance to?
No,
review this?
but I mean, typically performance and payment bonds are not for a materials procurement. It's typically for the construction contract.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's accurate. It's my off the cuff
Okay.
legal analysis.
Mhm.
So you said that they sent these changes to you in an email,
Mhm.
correct? So does that become a binding document then, if we approve this and something goes haywire?
No, so what will happen is these changes will be incorporated into the contract, and that is what we will approve is actual language in a revised contract. They just haven't had time to get it to me. This is just based off of, we had a conversation this afternoon, and I said, can you summarize that in an email? So I have it in writing, and so that's what they provided me.
So, I mean, I don't feel comfortable making a motion then. Is this, am I being too rigid here, or? I mean, if we don't have the actual language, what really are we motioning
Well,
on?
you've already approved the contract.
Right.
These are
Okay,
modifications of the
Right.
contract.
And you're authorizing the mayor to
To-
make those revisions.
okay,
Right. So the dollar
That's what the
amounts,
motion is.
you have to approve the dollar amount changes and any other substantive term like the delivery date,
right,
but you've already approved the contract.
right, I
So,
got that, yeah, okay,
um,
thanks.
you know, these are just specific changes to the contract.
So I think,
I'll move.
I was gonna say, if, this, I can come back to have this ratified by council, so you do see the final language as well, but I think, but its substance is still gonna be there. And so I think if you approve the substance of what the changes are, and then I can come back at the March council meeting with the final for ratification, if that
Yeah,
makes
I
more.
like that. Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay.
Thank you for suggesting that.
So no motion today?
No,
No, we can make a
a
motion, but
Yeah. Pardon? It's a mouthful.
you ready to read that whole
All
thing?
right.
Okay, I move to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the revised equipment procurement contracts for the wastewater treatment plant, phase 1 as follows. Section 432500 submersible screw centrifugal pumps with APSCO Trillium in the amount of $85,522.42, a delivery date of 294 days rather than 154 days, and additional contract language on page 10. Section 462300 grit removal equipment with Lakeside in the amount of $161,485.38, a delivery date of 180 days rather than 154 days, with revised indemnification language, and the final two payments will be paid within 270 days of the delivery date. Section 465133 fine bubble diffusers, paragraph 1.05B, new aeration basin, and alternate 1, section 465133, Line bubble diffusers, paragraph 1.05C, oxidation ditch. With Aquarius, so now $90,037.20.
With changes as discussed. I would add to that.
With changes at this step.
Second,
Okay, thank you, Christy, for the second. All right, first and a second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
aye.
And again, we'll bring this back to you for ratification. I think that would be a request.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Liana, strategic plan agreements.
Okay, so not knowing whether or not council would approve the procurement policy, we moved forward with adding the fire department strategic plan agreements on the agenda. And so that encompasses approving an intergovernmental co-op agreement, which allows us to contract without having to go to bid for these services. And in the packet, there's a staff memo about the procurement plan that we used to secure or to analyze the services with ESCI. And this is for, again, the strategic plan that's in the budget. I think in the budget, we have $20,000. And the contract, again, is not to exceed $16,350.
I motion to authorize the city administrator, Helena Kinley, to sign the participating agency endorsement and authorization to participation in National Purchasing Partners, NPP Gov, intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement on behalf of the city of Stevenson. Motion to.
Well,
there's two.
one motion at a time.
Yeah, two things. Yep.
Wait for a second.
Second,
Oh. Go ahead, give it to her.
Somebody else.
thanks.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Now you.
There we
Now I
go.
can go for
All right,
another one.
now the second one.
Yep. Motion to approve the personal services contract with ESCI in the amount not to exceed $16,350.
Second.
Okay, first and a second. Any further discussion?
I know, I had a meeting with Chief Ferris the other day, and he is excited about getting this accomplished. So I think this is gonna be a good move for him.
Perfect. Yeah, I agree. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. So at the last meeting, Paul Spencer showed up to discuss about an interloan or an interlocal agreement for a loan for the pool district. And so that is what is before you now. It's a 2-year loan of $40,000 at 2% interest with payments beginning in January of next year. And so it goes through 2024.
So, Annie, you weren't here last month when Paul came in, but
Yeah.
typically we budget $40,000
Right.
as a donation or a contribution to the
Mhm.
pool. But because they're also getting taxpayer money, they felt like that was a double dip situation. So they are the ones that came to us and suggested that we would still like that $40,000, but we would like to enter into agreement so that we can pay it back.
Oh, fantastic.
So it's not a donation or a contribution.
Nice.
So
Good for them.
that's the backstory on this.
Thank you. That's awesome.
I'd move to approve the interlocal agreement with Stevenson Community Pool District for a 2-year, $40,000 loan at 2% interest.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I was thinking that this was a second request
No.
before you grant. Okay, that's good.
Okay, up next is, this is the initial presentation of the zoning code amendments, and Liana gets a break. Jeffrey can step down from his public comment.
Go ahead and introduce it. You guys have a mix up. You've got the planning commission packet, which has far more information than you were going to get before. So that's great. You have a recommendation from the planning commission to adopt an amendment to the zoning code. That amendment affects the SR suburban residential district. That's primarily on the west side of Rock Creek. Some smaller areas on the east side of Rock Creek too. In that district, we had 11 property owners submit an application to be reviewed by the planning commission to apply a caveat to the side yard, interior side yard setback and rear yard setback that exists in all our other residential zoning districts. It never existed in this district. That caveat says that small outbuildings can be built closer to a property line than the setback allows. And so the current setbacks are 15-foot side and 20-foot rear. And this would allow those small outbuildings to be 5 feet from the rear and the side property lines. Small in this case is defined by both 12 feet in height or less and 200 square feet in size or less. So 10 by 20 is a way to imagine that. Planning Commission reviewed that starting in October of last year. They set a public hearing and held that in December of last year. Sent out flyers to all the neighbors in the district. We had notices in the paper. They had a good turnout at that December meeting. Part of their discussion though was that, hey, this flyer that we sent was really vague and we want people to know what's going on. So send out a new flyer, be more specific. We were more specific with that second flyer and got good turnout again at our February meeting. They reviewed that. They submitted a recommendation to approve the amendment application as it was proposed, including in that they are recommending that you codify an interpretation that made in 2019. That interpretation was that self-storage units are not an approved use in the SR district. It had been an unlisted use. They went through their process and said, this isn't something that we would have considered as appropriate had we thought about it when we adopted the use table of that district. So now they want to codify that so that everyone has easier access to that in the city code. They're recommending that for your approval too. There's examples of the public outreach that they did for this. You have a draft of the ordinance. Unfortunately, you don't have a draft of the exhibit to the ordinance that includes the recommended changes. So I don't feel comfortable just giving that to you now to review for potential approval. But typically you're doing a two-touch system with these topics. So this would be the first touch. In this case, the Planning Commission has held a public hearing on it. City Council usually does a public hearing and Planning Commission just does public workshops. So it's up to you if you want to hold another public hearing at the next meeting to consider this or not.
What would another public hearing offer that we might not have, that somebody might not have had an opportunity for yet or considered yet? I mean, is there a benefit to offering another hearing?
There's never a detriment to hearing from the public.
Right, got it.
In this case, the amendment is essentially 3 keystrokes different. So we're adding an X to, well, actually it's a little bit more than that, but we're adding notes to these interior side yard and interior rear yard setback areas. The note already exists about the small shed. We're just applying it to this new district. Bottom line, what I'm saying is this is a fairly simple discussion. And so there may not be a great deal of benefit, though it may give people more time to think about it. In a long time.
Yeah.
They've been talking about it since December. So you may get people to more clearly state their opposition or support of it.
How many residents are in this affected area?
The Planning Commission sent out notices to all property owners in and adjacent to, and those notices tallied up to something like 213 or something.
And so we've got 11 people who've signed something.
11
supported the
initiated the
change?
discussion.
Okay.
Not supported the change. They initiated the discussion. They applied.
Okay, got it.
Um,
Okay, got it.
And then there was testimony at the planning commission from people who just got the notice. That was vague. They showed up and they heard what it was and said, yeah, we support this. They received testimony from people who were wary about making a change.
Mhm.
The planning commission's recommendation was a 2-to-1 majority to
Right.
recommend, but there was opposition in the planning commission's recommendation to you, so.
Well, I'm in agreement. It's never a bad idea to allow the public to have their say. What does it entail to hold another hearing?
Just notice.
Okay.
Well, the minimum would be to provide the public notice into the newspaper.
Newspaper.
The planning commission goes through and they set their own conscientious public involvement strategies. And for their strategy, it was the legal notice in the newspaper, the flyers to all the property owners, the press release in the newspaper, which just became a news and brief. And holding the public hearing.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you could go through the same exercise to decide what public involvement meant for you in this case. Minimally, we need to notice it in paper.
Right. I wonder how many people read those notices. So what is everyone else thinking?
My concern about holding another hearing is, why do we have a planning commission? I mean, we have tasked them with boots on the ground, groundwork, so to speak. And they put a lot of work into this. We should support them in the decisions they make, the way I look at it, because that's what they are tasked to do, is to make those decisions for us and then run them by us to see if they meet within what our expectation levels are. I have a real challenge second guessing committees that you task to do something and then you turn around and want to redo the work. I have a real problem with it.
Well, then
I
I don't
agree
even
with you.
people to redo the work. They're just trying to, I agree with you in that we wouldn't redo the work. We would just go, well, I don't know that I agree with all the work that you just did. You come up with these answers and then, people are second guessing and whatever. So I agree with that.
I agree too. I also agree that, homeowners should be given every opportunity to voice their concerns. And between December and now, there's been a lot of snow, there've been the holidays, there's been a COVID outbreak. There've been a lot of other things in people's minds that maybe they haven't noticed that notice in the newspaper or something else.
What did you say was the outreach? Because there was 2 meetings, right? One of them, somebody felt was a little too vague on what the purpose of the meeting was, or the discussion was. So there was a more refined outreach, and it was mail, direct mail, Facebook, public notice.
Yeah.
Good.
What's the cost of that?
The mailing adds up. I didn't track it, but in this case, this is an application, so
Yeah.
we received fees that we
Fees for it,
anticipate
right.
to cover that sort of thing. There's a cost. Yeah, the more about what Scott's saying. So the planning commission in the middle of last year, they went through their effort to create that conscientious public involvement framework. And with that framework, they adopted some example ways to engage the public.
Right,
And,
yeah, I remember that. It was excellent.
And so they went out of the first way that was in there as an example of engaging the public, this flyer, and the flyer was vague. And we did that, and they saw that, and they didn't feel like that suited the public receiving the flag.
Right, so they
And
did
so
it again.
they wanted to do it again to be more specific. That more specific one also included the link to the website, which the first version didn't. So
Mhm.
that people could do their research on their own before just showing up to the meeting. And so public involvement increased over time with that one, or their efforts at public involvement increased. So
Were the meetings also available on Zoom?
Yeah, they are. Mhm. So what are you looking for from us tonight then?
generally,
You're
just this is first touch for you, so
Right.
I want to
So we're
respect
just
your.
gonna think about it, and put it on the agenda again for next month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And so these folks have an opportunity to come back. Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Ben.
Just appreciate what you're saying too about the planning commission doing work to go into the weeds on things. Sometimes what the process that we run through is that they just do things in workshop sessions. The city needs to hold public hearings on it. And so the planning commission will do that really heavy lift of the workshop and fine tune things to the point where they get something that they can recommend to you. And then they intentionally leave it to you for the public hearing,
Mhm.
so
Okay.
that you're hearing
Okay,
the public's reaction to that.
to the workshops?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, Okay.
And sometimes that's the case. What will happen with that is people are satisfied. All right, they recommended what I was satisfied with,
Mhm.
and
And then
it doesn't,
that's it.
they don't show up.
Right.
And you'll hear often from the people who are unsatisfied and want changes to it. So
Mhm.
that's the balance there.
Okay.
In this case, we ran it the different way, where they wanted the hearing on their own. So
Okay.
we can keep working together between the two bodies to see what works best for you all in that case.
Okay. Thank you.
But you felt that there was a decent turnout for both, but specifically the second one?
Well, for both, yeah.
Good, good.
Far better than they usually get. So.
Wow, that's amazing. Good.
All right, so we will be voting on this next month.
All right, next up is a proclamation recognizing March as Red Cross Month. This was brought to us asking for us to recognize the Red Cross.
All right. I make a motion to approve proclamation 2022, 2022-01, recognizing March 2022 as Red Cross Month.
Second.
Ah, you are
Dang,
late.
May. All right, first and the second, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we do have some informational items in your packet for you to peruse. All right, Ben, do you have some additional staff report for us?
Kind of gave the one about the Shoreline access program. Yeah, I don't think it betrays my excitement about it really. The change from being a reactive regulatory planning agency to being proactive and doing things. So I am really happy with the public access planning effort that we'll undertake for the Shoreline area. Update on the Columbia Avenue project. We are reaching out to those adjacent property owners to see if they want the city's grant funds to also sample on those properties to determine the extent of contamination. We know that they found some when investigations were done on the vacant property on the southeast of the intersection of Columbia and 2nd Street. And so finding out how far that contamination goes, we'll be sampling in the public rights of way, also working with those adjacent owners to see who wants sampling as part of that. So that component is moving forward, and then we'll develop that sampling plan and get to work in the next month in earnest on that project. Shinnedeer is continuing to do initial preparatory work before their ability to start site grading in April. So that should be going forward. I think it's more than 50 lots would be available at that time. Who knows if they release all those at once, or if they start selling from the top or selling from the bottom. That'll be interesting thing to watch going forward. But that second phase will make the connection between Lutheran Church Road and Pine Street going out to Shepherd, and Terry, which just loops back into Pine Street. So
Are you impacted by that, Dave?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Does that mean we're gonna get sidewalks and all that stuff too?
You're gonna get fancy.
Oh, gosh.
And the third lane, Dave.
And,
And a third lane, right?
and speed bumps.
It's gonna be a parkway.
Oh, gosh.
okay. February, March are typically when the pre-application meetings start rolling. People are getting ready for their summer construction projects, and they're definitely rolling this year, busy with pre-application concept meetings with people. So continues to look like it'll be a busy year.
We may need to put a stoplight in down there
What?
by the little ice cream place.
Oh, the
No.
coffee shop.
Okay, can you
No,
imagine how
stoplight.
many houses are gonna be in that development?
Wow.
All
50?
trying to get out on Highway
Yeah,
14
right?
where.
So Dave,
Hold on.
I was gonna provide an update on the traffic plan that we have, and that intersection is one of the ones that we're looking at. And so right now they're doing an initial feasibility as far as what options we could use for that intersection, as well as Frank Johnson 14. And in early March, we should have the results of that, and then we're gonna move forward with engaging the public on options. So that will be looked at and was identified in the current traffic study.
Okay,
Nice.
thank you, Leona.
Your traffic light is not one of those options.
There are
No.
options, that's
You
not
notice
one.
WashDOT has been systematically removing stoplights. There's only
Right.
one left on
They
Highway
gotta put
14.
they gotta put another turnaround out there.
Yeah.
Another,
roundabout.
Rotary.
area.
Yeah, roundabout.
Roundabout, yeah. Another good for hyper.
Yeah, we looked at that, not a lot of room for roundabout, but
If, I'm sure WADOT can figure it out.
well, if it was just automobiles, I'm sure that we could find a way to get those big rigs through there with you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, Leona, do you have anything else for us staffers?
I have a lot of other things for a staff report. Are you guys still there? Did we lose you totally, or is it just the video?
I can't see anybody.
Yeah. So, give me 1 second. Let me make a call.
Oops.
Leona, go ahead.
Okay,
Is your meeting over?
so.
No,
you're
no, sorry.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
What's happening?
All
Hey,
the
is
fun
that meeting
stuff.
over? No, not so much.
Right, yeah. So, thank you for your patience with a sick child waking up from a nap. But one of the questions that I've been asked is, so Bridges of Gods has been doing some work on a retrofit for the bridge. And this retrofit though is different from what they've been asking before. It's different from the flat funds. This is for a seismic upgrade. And they're requesting half of the funds come from the state of Washington, and they would like a letter of support from Stevenson. And so I've been kind of talking with them. Unfortunately, their meetings are the same night and time as ours, and so it's challenging for them to coordinate a presentation. And my question to the council is, what would you need from a letter of, what would you need in order to provide a letter of support for this project? Again, this is for a seismic upgrade of the bridge. And it's a multi-million-dollar project. I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head, but again, to be funded half by Oregon and half by Washington.
I'm watching the news.
You're cutting in and out.
So can you tell more about this is about
What?
Right, you're still cutting in and out. So it's what it would do is it would make the bridge more resilient. I'm not going to say bulletproof in the event of a Cascadia type earthquake. And so there are a couple of places on the bridge stanchions that they would reinforce or again do some engineering to make it more fluid or more able to get through a Cascadia type earthquake. And the cost for that project is a lot more efficient than the other projects that are in Portland, like for the 205 or I-5 bridge. And so that's one of the selling points, is that it's more cost effective and it also helps extend the life of the bridge. One of the other projects that they're working on is trying to figure out to what level do they want to fund the current maintenance of the bridge, and that then determines how long the bridge will last and then determines the next iteration of the bridge, whether that be a replacement or what. But that's separate from this project. And they do have a presentation. I can provide you with some information on that. But in the past, some of the challenges have been the tolling, and that is why the council was not in favor of providing a letter of support. And so I want to kind of gauge to see if that is still an issue and a point of contention with regards to providing a letter of support, or if there's other language that we can use in providing a letter of support, because that bridge is vital to our economy. And we would like to work with them on helping to ensure its continued success.
Where was there a boat out there?
Where's the funding coming from?
where's the funding coming from? Can you type?
So the ideal funding would be coming from the latest federal infrastructure project, the infrastructure funding from the federal government. And I know both states are looking at how to spend those monies. And so that's sort of why the timeliness works for applying for, at the state level for funding. I don't know if they're going to be doing it this year or next year, but they are including it in their ask as part of the flow of cash that should be coming for transportation. Scott, can you repeat any of that? We can't hear.
Yeah, so Anderson was verifying that they're just looking for a letter of support for this project, not for any of the other previous projects that we've kind of.
To what he's gonna do.
Correct. And if you would like, I can work with them and schedule a meeting outside of our regular council meeting if that would help to provide more information on this project and what their ask is. And then if so, I would just need to, I could run a doodle poll and we can figure out dates.
You have information you can email to us?
I have a 1-pager and I asked for more information and I'm still waiting on that, but when I get that, I can definitely pass that out.
Yeah, that's good. What?
Can you hear me, Liana? Doodle poll, yes.
Okay, thank you. That was the only decision point and feedback that I would need. So I'll run a doodle poll for a presentation, and we'll see who wants to come. And then also, when sending that out, if you don't wish to be involved, if a presentation would work for you just as a slide deck, that would be fine, and just let me know and we can work that out. In other news, there's a water leak that Public Works is working on behind the high school stadium. They're waiting for parts to repair it. It's about 5 gallons a minute. So if you see some water flowing up there, we are working on it and is on our list of things. But again, we need parts to repair that. And just like everything, it's taking a little bit longer than initially or it would otherwise take. The man lift at the city shops, as well as one public works vehicle, was damaged on Saturday. The windows were broken out of them. There was a crowbar found as well, so we don't know if they were planning on taking anything, but they didn't get it. They didn't move it at all. Again, it was just the windows that were broken out, and they're working on filing a police report. The windows were fixed and just waiting to get an invoice back to complete that police report. We aren't submitting it to insurance at this time. We'll see what the invoices come back at. But again, we didn't notice that anything else was taken. And I also heard that there was also some vandalism possibly down at the port as well. So now that the weather is getting nicer, that's something that we're looking for to beef up our security on. The other new hire that we have is Bill Sexton. He's our new utilities maintenance worker. Again, so he comes from, most recently, he comes from the county, but he also, as far as a county employee, and he used to work for the city of Newport, Oregon. And so he has some experience working in the water and utility sector. And so he was able to also transfer some of his certifications over, which is great for us. And he comes with the CDL. So again, he's already up and running on a lot of things, which saves time and allows us to leverage his expertise. We have an RFP that we're going to put out for engineers to design and manage the Loop Road and Vancouver water lines, which is currently in the budget. And that project is expected to be done this summer. And so at the March meeting, we hope to have a contract for approval for the engineers and then moving forward on that construction project. In March, we'll have an insurance audit. And so as part of our current agreement with our insurance company, our liability insurance company, we do an annual audit of certain sectors. Last year it was over fleet management, which is why the proposed changes to the personnel policy earlier this year. And so this year we'll be looking at personnel policies and procedures as a focus. Again, they kind of have some that they recommend. And I said, since we're doing all this hiring, perfect time to look through all of our policies and see what we can be doing better. And then we'll be wrapping up our year-end financials. We will not have a federal audit this year because the projects that we initially thought were moving forward were delayed till this year. So that's good news. That will save us money in our audit. And then I'll be reaching out to Adam Kick on the Park Plaza contract to get both contracts moving forward. I have not had time. I've been dealing mostly with the equipment procurement and public works items. And I already provided the update on the traffic plan. I think that is all I have.
Thank you. All right, I would entertain a motion.
Scott, can you reiterate who makes the motion and who seconds?
Yeah, sure. So who do we have for first one? So Annie made the first. Dave you had the second one, and Dave had second.
Are we
And
on
then
the vouchers right now? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, vouchers.
Okay. Oh my.
So all in favor? Okay, we have 3 ayes here, and then Christy says aye, so that's unanimous. Anything for the greater good as far as council member report?
sent to the commissioner. Well, well put together, and I think it's coming.
Can you hear Liana, or is it? Okay.
So Dave was saying thanks for the letter that I sent to the county commissioners today. And that was emailed to you guys this morning. All right, well, I think we're close to. Oh. Annie's in.
Scott, can you turn your video on and maybe wink at me if we're supposed to be doing something? I don't know what's happening.
Let me see if I can.
We can only hear Scott. Everyone else is cutting in and out.
And sometimes Scott.
We're gonna try turning the big camera back on. We'll see. Ooh. All right, Annie, try again. Ooh. There we go.
Okay, can you hear us, Liana? And, okay, Christy? So my question, Liana, was whether or not last month, the sheriff's department provided their list of deputies who completed required training last year.
No, they have not, and I have not followed up on that, so I can.
Yeah,
I can ask
if
them
you
for
could
that.
for March, that would be great. That's all I have.
Anybody else?
I did meet with Chief Ferris for about 2 hours. Discuss the ongoing project of the new fire hall. And we're looking forward to putting together a meeting between yourself, Mayor, and Tom and him to start moving that process forward. So,
And the report that I have is as part of the Stevenson Downtown Association. We applied for a grant through Burke Consulting, and we were selected as a hub group to work on a downtown strategic plan. So we'll work on some ways to funnel our energy and pick some top priority projects. This is slated as a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. So all manner of things are being considered as far as actual projects, but this is a strategic plan that helps kind of wrangle the different projects and prioritize them. So it's a very intense, very concentrated 3-meeting session over about 5 months. So as it goes, I'm happy to give you guys details.
Yeah, please, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
All right, Christy, do you have anything?
I don't.
Very good.
What?
Huh?
Hey, I can't see you. I'm discombobulated.
Oh.
All right. This is a nice and short. I would like to adjourn the meeting at 7:29. Thank you all very much for coming.